for the moms who raised us up, gave us love, and made us strong. For the praying moms who don't always know what to do, but always know who to talk to. For the hurting moms who've loved and lost, but never given up. For those who never got called mom, but who cared for us all like a mom would. For the young moms who became moms sooner than expected and gave it all they had. For the single moms who tirelessly and courageously learned how to do this on their own. For the stepmoms and the stand-in moms who rose to the occasion and loved us well. For the working moms, the stay-home moms, the cooking moms, and the takeout moms, thank you. For teaching us how to walk, how to learn, and how to make a difference. For taking care of us when you barely had enough time to take care of yourself. For comforting us when we felt alone and afraid. For lifting us up when others put us down. For the rides, the meals, the laundry, and the birthday parties. For the years, tears, laughter, and love. It's not enough, but we want to say thank you. Thank you for doing for us what we could never do for ourselves. We love you. We honor you. We remember you today. Happy Mother's Day.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm not sure that could be said any better for all the moms in the room, online, and moms that we remember. We love you. We honor you. We remember you. Happy Mother's Day. We are so grateful for every woman in the room and online. Now, this is Megan Hammonds, and Megan has no idea. We just put her on stage 30 seconds ago, and she has no idea why she's up here. Megan, thanks for being okay with it. Are you nervous? Just a little bit, I'm sure. I just wanted to tell you about Megan. Megan is a volunteer in Upstreet, Transit, which if you're new, that's our middle school environment. She's a small group leader with a bunch of 6th grade girls. And Megan started coming to church a couple years ago. I'm gonna not get this perfect. Has had to walk through some stuff in her life with her family, and has hung on to Jesus. And then she decided what Jesus gave her, she wanted to make sure some 6th grade girls had in their lives too. So every Sunday, and time in between Sunday to Sunday, she leads and loves a bunch of young ladies that aren't her daughters, which I thought is incredible. That she's raising her own kids, but she's helping raise kids in our church because all of us as parents just need help along the way. Now, you may not know this, Megan, but I'm gonna tell you, your son Ryan, when he went through Starting Point, he's in 8th grade. This is so cool. He said that you are the greatest influence for Jesus in his life. And I thought, what an incredible thing for an 8th grader to say about you. And here's the deal. We wish we could do for all of you what we're about to do for Megan, if you're a mom in the room, because you are so vital to us. So I decided that we would give you a gift certificate. We have 2 gift certificates. One is for a massage that we're paying for you to do at a professional massage place. I said this in our run through this morning. We want to give you a massage, and I was told, don't say that, that's awkward. So we're giving you a gift certificate for a massage. And then we got a bunch of gift cards at McDonald's and Domino's and all at Subway, because sometimes you just need to feed your kids on the run. And so thank you for being a great mom. Thanks for serving our middle school girls. Yeah, give it. No, they interrupted me. That's awesome. And just thanks for representing what this whole thing looks like. We're grateful for you. Now, I'm going to let you get off the stage because I know it's awkward. You can go right up that way. Give it up one more time for Megan, would you? Now, I'm super serious when I say I wish we could do for every mom or someone that stepped into the life of a child or student as a mom, for all of you ladies in the room and you online. We just can't afford to do that. So enjoy your little flower we gave you. That's incredible. And hopefully somebody will treat you really, really well today. We are so glad you're here. And if I could just be selfish for a moment, for my mom, who watches every Sunday and prays for me and prays for you. Happy Mother's Day. Love you, Mom. So with that said, we have what we hope is a super helpful service this morning. We're gonna be here about an hour. We're gonna sing a couple songs, and then you get to watch a baptism from last week. I just want to re-show that to you because they're so pivotal from last week's second service. So when you see that at the end, you can clap and cheer loud for that because it's a big win around here. And I'm gonna start a brand new series called Check Your Heart, which is supposed to be a gift to moms and their families on my behalf. We love you all so very much. Would you stand? Let's sing our first song together.
I've seen my fair share of ups and downs. I walked some hard miles on shaky ground, but from the place that I am standing now, it's clear to see that you were right there with me. All you ever been, all you ever will be, all you ever are is faithful, faithful. At least a million times I've seen it with my own eyes. All you ever been is faithful, faithful. I've had plenty and I've seen drought. I've been on fire and I've burned out. But from the place that I am standing now, it's clear to see that you were right there with me. All you ever been, all you ever will be, all you ever are is faithful, faithful. At least a million times I've seen it with my own eyes. All you ever been is faithful, faithful. As sure as the sun's coming up every morning, I'm sure of the promise my Father is for me. His grace, His kindness, His favor keep coming. What a faithful, faithful God. As sure as the sun, as sure as the sun's coming up every morning, I'm sure of the promise my Father is for me. His grace, His kindness, His favor keep coming. What a faithful, faithful God.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again into a family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear, for I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I will stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. You drowned my fears in perfect love. You rescued me so I will stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Yes, I am a child of God. For my faith, yes, I am a child of God.
So good. We are so grateful for a Father who loves us, that calls us his children. You guys can go ahead and have a seat. And as you do, one of his children, Josie Coleman, who's a freshman at Van Wert, got baptized last week. We want you to hear her story and celebrate with her baptism. Check it out.
My name is Josie Coleman. I'm 14 years old, a freshman at Van Wert High School. I have grown up going to church, specifically LifeHouse, since kindergarten. I have actually been volunteering with my mom since I was 9. And I never really understood the meaning of coming to church until I got to transit. I went to Fusion Camp my 6th grade year, and then I went to Cedarville Camp the summer before my 8th grade year. And that's when I really decided to lean in some more. Second to last night was known to hit most people, including me, and that is the night I accepted Jesus into my life. That night I told my group leader that I really felt the presence of Jesus, and that was the first time I ever felt that much of an impact by the Lord. But around that time I was going through a rough time, going through a hard patch, and just felt like I was digging deeper into a hole that I eventually fell into. But once that situation was over, I had realized that I was just walking on Jesus' path the whole time. So fast forward to this year, February 5th, there was a night of worship. I walked in with a heavy heart, not really knowing what to expect. When we got the chance to go over and have someone pray for us, I immediately went to Ellie, poured out my heart, told her what was going on, and she just prayed over me, and it was really impactful. And that night was the night that I realized I really wanted to get baptized, because I had been thinking about it for a while. Some people I'd like to thank are my group leaders, Paula and Taylor. They're the foundation of my faith. I mean, they do anything and everything for us. Paula's been with us since we were in 2nd grade, and Taylor just joined us in the fall. I'd also like to thank one of my best friends, Carly. We met through club volleyball last year, and we've just been tight ever since. She just, she makes me learn more about who I am as myself, as a Christ follower, and just who I am as a person. And then last but not least, I'd like to thank my best friend, Jordan Gamble. She just so happens to be my cousin. She helps me through everything. We've been through everything together, no matter their circumstances. It's just the most Christ-centered relationship that I have ever been in, and I think one could ever experience. I'm Josie Coleman, and I'm here to announce that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior.
Josie, today is just absolutely amazing. You're taking a huge step in your faith with being baptized today, and Taylor and I couldn't be more proud of you. As you've grown and leaned in on your faith and opened your heart to Jesus, you have really followed his direction in difficult challenges and making decisions to follow the right path and surround yourself with people to increase your faith and support your faith journey. We have watched you grow, learn, lead, and serve in our church, which is amazing for someone your age. And Taylor and I, it's just been a true gift for us to watch. With your public declaration of Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, we're here to baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Josie, it is so good to celebrate with you. Thanks for sharing your story with us, for having the courage to do that. It is a gift to us, and it's encouraging to us to hear what God's doing in your life. And so we're just celebrating what he has done, how you're continuing to grow, and what he's going to do in your life in the future. So celebrating you, and we're celebrating Jesus. Let's give Josie one more round of applause. We are so proud of Josie and every single person who makes the decision to get baptized. If you don't know, baptism is something that's been around for thousands of years, where Jesus followers go public with their faith. And that is so tied closely to the decision to put trust in Jesus. So as a Jesus follower, you trust in him, and then so many people take that next step to get baptized. And if you've never taken the step, if you would say, yeah, I follow Jesus, I've put my trust in him, but if you've never taken that step, I want to encourage you to consider that. Would you consider taking that step of baptism? It's a personal step of faith for you, for Josie, but it's also a step that encourages other people, like we all are encouraged by her story. And listen, I know that it takes courage, and I know that there's some scary things about it, but every single person that we've had the opportunity to walk through that baptism process with, who's taken that step, has said, this is the best thing that I've ever done with my faith. So many people, time and time again. And so I want to encourage you would you consider that as a next step for you if you have put your trust in Jesus? We will help you along the way. In fact, we have something happening this Tuesday at LifeHouse called Baptism Q&A, because you probably, like me, you probably have questions about baptism. We want to answer those. And so Baptism Q&A is happening this coming Tuesday right here at 5:30. It's a short session where you can get some information and see, is this the best next step for me? If you come Tuesday, you don't have to follow through and get baptized. We want you to just leave having the information you want. But we'd love to invite you to that. If you want to just let us know you're interested in baptism, you can do that too. Hop on the LifeHouse app, and there's a form on there. You can let us know you're interested. We'd love to have that conversation with you. But the other thing with baptism is that if you are financially generous, if you give your resources to this mission, I want you to know that what you are giving to is things like Josie, things like her story and what God's doing in her life. And so if you say, I don't know if my giving matters, and it's easy to lose track of that, I just want you to know that it matters. It matters in a huge way, not just here now, but forever, in eternity. It matters. And if you've never taken the step to be generous to this mission, to this church, I want to invite you to do that. It's very simple. Just hop on our app, and you can sign up for a recurring giving schedule. That's what my wife and I do, so that if we're gone, our giving keeps going. Because, listen, this thing that we've got here is a jet engine, and giving your resourcing is the fuel in that jet engine. We need that fuel to see the mission come through. And God does the work, but it's our job to put the fuel in it. So I want to invite you to do that, and thank those of you who do give for what you're doing, changing lives, kids, students, adults all over the place here. Thank you so much for that. We're going to move on with the rest of our service. And like Matt said in the opener, our lead pastor, Matt Braun's here kicking off today's new message.
Well, once again, happy Mother's Day. Love our moms and all the women in our church. I was asked, hey, since it's Mother's Day, Matt, are you not going to turn the air conditioning down so much this morning for all the moms? I just want to say this. I love you. I don't love you that much. Anyway, that's just a joke. That's just a joke. But you can bring a sweater. All right. Hey, we're so glad that you all are here. I'm going to tell you a story. I keep saying I'm not going to talk about this surgery thing I had about 8 or 9 weeks, and I lie to you every Sunday because then I bring it back up again. So I had a pretty major surgery 8 or 9 weeks ago, and 5 days after the surgery at 4 in the morning, my Apple Watch went off, and my Apple Watch indicated to me that I am in this thing called AFib. Now, I'm no medical person, but apparently AFib is when your heart gets out of rhythm with the lower half of your heart and the top half of your heart, and I'm an AFib. Well, I've never had heart problems, and so I just clicked off. It was 4 in the morning, so I just canceled, dismissed, went back to sleep. 30 minutes later, Apple Watch again, you're an AFib. 3 more times, and the 4th time I went to my wife Tina and said, hey, I think we probably ought to go to the doctor and check this out because it could be serious. And sure enough, family physicians there did a great job for me. I was an AFib, sent me right to the emergency room, and now I'm in the hospital. And I've never been in the hospital for a heart thing in my life. And they immediately put me on this thing, and I'll pronounce it wrong, electrocardiogram, which I have no idea what that even is. And then I had to have one of these tests, an echocardiogram. And they determined I'm not in any immediate danger, I'm okay, but I had to come back and do this thing called a nuclear stress test. And when they said you got to do a nuclear stress test, and they said it's because we're going to measure gamma rays in your body or give you gamma rays or do something with gamma rays, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to turn into the Incredible Hulk. How awesome would that be if this happens? Now, because when I had my stress test, I just had hip surgery a week or so before, I couldn't get on the treadmill, so they shot me full of this medicine that speeds everything up. I don't know if it's adrenaline or whatever, and the nurse said, you might pee your pants. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm 55 years old, and it didn't happen. Rest assured, I was fine, and that turned out fine. And I listen to me. My heart is fine. You don't need to ask me about my heart after the service. In fact, it would help me out if not 100 people didn't ask me that. That would be great for me. My heart is fine. I cleared just about everything, but I was so fascinated. You know, your hip's bad, your shoulder's bad, your knee's bad. I mean, you may wait 6 months for surgery or a answer or even an appointment, but your heart's bad. I mean, it's full alert, emergency room. Everybody kind of lands on you to figure out what is going on because your heart, your physical heart, is so essential to your life. And you all know that. I just was a little shocked how fast everything happens once that trigger is pulled. Pro tip, you got heart problems, take care of your body, take care of your heart. It's a big deal. And that's your physical heart. I got a question for you this morning to get us going. What about your emotional heart? What about your spiritual heart? What about the thing that's in you that kind of drives your life? How do you monitor that? How do you have tests for that? How do you figure out if my emotional, spiritual heart, or we might say our soul, that all kinds of the same thing in the scriptures, is doing okay? Solomon, who was considered one of the wisest person that ever walked the face of the earth, he said this a couple thousand years ago plus, above all else, I mean, think about that language, above all else, guard your heart. And he's not talking about your physical heart. He's talking about this thing inside you. He says, for everything you do flows from it. Another translation, it is the wellspring of life. It's the center of your life is your soul and your heart. And it all spills out of it. Your words and your actions and your relationships, that your soul, your heart affects everything. And when your heart's contaminated, when the well's contaminated, everything you drink is contaminated, especially back in those days. If you're in a stream situation or a river and contamination goes into the river upstream, everything downstream gets contaminated. How do you pay attention to that? This is this whole command center of our lives. Another way to think about this is when we have heart issues, we have internal dissonance issues. This is the psychological term for when the stuff inside our soul gets really icky and toxic. And pro tip, we'll all kind of know this by the end of the message, I hope. We all have some ickiness in our soul and our heart. It's where we avoid things that we need to address. It's the place that we're defensive when we should be open. We deny. We overreact or we underreact. This idea of internal dissonance or heart issues, it impedes our growth in our relationships and ultimately our connection to our Heavenly Father. And to monitor your spiritual, emotional heart is huge. And just to go back, 2,500, 3,000 years ago, Solomon says, above all else, guard your heart. Can I ask you a question? On Mother's Day, this is kind of my gift to you for the people that are with you and your family, and I'm sure it'll apply to you moms, but I thought, I want to talk on something that's going to make mom's life better. So for everyone else, put the moms in the room, and moms, play along as you want on your day. How you doing at this? Guarding your heart. Because everything you do flows from it. Apparently, Solomon believed that the core of our soul, our command center, is so important, we have to pay ultimate attention to it. So in this series, over the next several weeks, I'm gonna talk about 3 indicators we can pay attention to when it comes to guarding our hearts and how we can get in a rhythm of guarding our hearts. So I want to take you back to your childhood, especially if you're a little bit older like me. Do you remember this phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones? You can finish the rest of it, but words will never hurt me. Did you remember saying that as a kid? You know what, I'm sure whoever came up with this or wrote this was a well-meaning person. Maybe it was a parent or a coach or a teacher that had a student or a child that was being bullied and made fun of. And so they said, hey, sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will never hurt you. And then young people hear words that break them and wound their soul. And maybe from a parent or a coach or a boss or an ex-wife or ex-husband, but it's a lie. This phrase is a lie because words ultimately will hurt you. In fact, I would suggest to you a broken arm, a broken leg heals much faster sometimes than when our soul gets dinged. Now, I want to get ahead of something. If you're a man or a person that like, oh, come on, Matt, I don't want to do this soft launch, heart, emotions. Can we just be tough? Can I just say this to especially the men in the room and online and everyone else play along? There's people in your life that wish you'd pay attention to it. So if you're already thinking about checking out because you don't want to talk about, soul things, heart things, emotion things, there's people in your life that are hoping you listen right now. So I'm going to invite you with another stubborn, I'm a tough guy dude on stage. Let's pay attention to this because sticks and stones may break your bones, but words can really, really hurt you. And again, because you had a dad that you admired, and he said some stuff to you. Maybe once, maybe repeatedly, that wounded your soul. Or a coach you admired, or a boss you admired that just wounded you, and it's paralyzed part of you, and you've compensated in some other way that's not so healthy. This is why Solomon knew, guard your heart above all else. Solomon also wrote some really interesting things about our words that come out of our mouth, that come from our heart. He said this, when it comes to words, sword thrusts or healing, which will they be for you? Because whatever's in us comes out of us. We'll talk about that in a second. Words can be sword thrusts or healing. They can turn away wrath. Think about that. They can turn away wrath, or they can stir up anger. We've all done this with our children if you have children. I love this last one. Words give us the power of life and death. And you maybe have given this to someone. You gave them life. You spoke into their life that gave them life. Or you gave them death because your words just tore them apart. How we monitor our heart and use our words makes all the difference. I can remember certain parts of my life as a pastor, because when you're a pastor, especially when you're a young pastor, this doesn't happen so much anymore, but when I was a young pastor, people would say awful things to me. And this was way before LifeHouse was ever started. Older gentleman, I mean quite a bit older than I, found out that we had moved into a parsonage, and a parsonage is a free pastor house. That's all a parsonage is. And there was a big garden in the back, and my wife and I, we don't garden. That's just not our thing. And so I grass seeded it over, right? And I walked into church, a couple months later, after the grass had grown, the garden was gone. And this old crotchety dude said to me, a pastor that doesn't have a garden can't be a pastor at all. I can remember him saying that about 30 seconds before I walked up to give, one of my first messages as a young pastor. I can remember that as clear as a day right now, because it wounded me. And I had to kind of deal with that and work through that. Well, you know who knew words were a problem? What comes out of our mouth is a problem is Jesus, because he knows everything. So Jesus has this really awkward conversation with a group of people called the Pharisees. They were religious leaders that were often kind of tainted and misled people. And they questioned Jesus about a law of cleanliness. Now, this may not make sense to you, but in the Jewish tradition, there was all these laws, and there was laws of cleanliness. And these Jewish leaders had taken these laws and just misinterpreted them, misused them. They were abusive with them. And Jesus, he doesn't put up with that from anybody, especially in the world of hypocrisy. So just if you hate hypocritical religious people, Jesus doesn't like it very much either. And so Jesus just takes them to task. So they're like, Jesus, what about all your followers that don't wash their hands and eat the right food the right way? Don't you know that they're unclean when it comes to God? Jesus, and Matthew was there and he wrote this down. I love that so much. He called the crowd to him and said, listen and understand. Up to this point, he'd been talking with his few disciples and the religious Pharisees, but he says, hey, I need everybody that's around this place. Gather up, because I'm about to tell you something brand new that you need to hold on to. And Jesus says, what goes into someone's mouth does not defile them. The idea of defile makes them unclean with God, makes them toxic, makes them unrighteous. What goes into someone's mouth does not make them defiled. He goes on, but what comes out of their mouth is what defiles them. And the disciples, they don't understand, and they're like, question Jesus. What are you talking about, Jesus? Peter, who speaks up, because Peter always spoke up, he said, explain the parable to us, Jesus. What's this whole thing about, in and out and all that? And Jesus, and when I read this next thing, I think Jesus smiled, trying to encourage Peter. It just sounds not so encouraging when you read it out of the text. He said, are you still so dull? I mean, moms, have you ever wanted to say this to your husband for the 1800th time? Where are my socks? Are you still so dull? Are you not paying attention? Jesus asked them. Jesus is simply saying this. You have been following me and listening to me. You've watched what I've done, how I interact, what I teach. Are you not paying attention? And then in this moment, Jesus gives a biology lesson to explain this principle. He says, don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body. Now, we understand this if we think about it, but for those of you that don't understand it, let me give you the easiest, proper example in church I can give you. We've had little ones come back into our family, grandkids, and you know when a brand new baby is born and they get formula or mama's milk, when it comes to that awful process of changing the diaper, it ain't so bad, right? It's just like, oh, it's not great, it's not so bad. Come on, you're with me, moms, on this. But then they get to that age where they start eating solid food and then real food, and then you go to change the diaper and you think, was a T-Rex wearing this thing today? I mean, what happened and what changed? And that's Jesus' point. What you put in your mouth, when it comes out, is all connected. But that's not the point of what I'm talking about. He says, but the things that come out of a person's mouth, not the diaper end, the mouth end, okay, you're with me, come from the heart, and these defile them. And Jesus is talking about words and actions are what defile you, defile me, make us unclean. And he says, for out of the heart come evil thoughts. And he gives us this list: murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, and slander. That all is stored up in our heart. When it comes out and we verbalize it, sometimes we act on it, and sometimes we wound people, and it all started here because your heart is the command center of your life. And when this happens, and you know this, you may agree with part of this list, some of this list, all of this list that Jesus gives, I agree with it all. There's something on this list that you know damaged you, or your brother, or your mom, or your dad, something on this list. And Jesus just simply says, these are what defile a person. This is what contaminates the stream. Our brokenness, what was given to us typically as a child, as an adult, and what we grabbed onto ourselves. These are what defile a person, Jesus said. But eating with unwashed hands does not defile them. Because this is what Jesus, or the Pharisees, taught. If your hands aren't clean, somehow it makes you rotten with God. And I mean, can you imagine how upside down we'd be with God if that was true of everything? Now, here's the thing. If you go back, 5 years to COVID, and I know you all have different opinions about COVID and vaccines and masks. I don't want you to worry about any of that. That's not where I'm going. I think one thing for sure came out of COVID that was really good for us. If nothing else, I'm gonna make an argument for one thing. It taught some of us disgusting people to wash our hands again. And you remember how we did it? Soap, hot water, happy birthday to you, I think 2 times, rinse well. It was helpful because we're germy people. And I'll tell you why I'm convinced we're germy people. I was in the airport last Sunday. I wasn't here with you, I was in the airport. And I walk in and there's a guy my age, he kind of had a professional look to him, urinal, and then flushes. Now you got to get the picture in your head, touches that nasty flusher that everyone else has touched along the way, and then he walks out of the bathroom, no water, no soap, walks across the hall to the Starbucks, gets his Starbucks, and touches every creamer there was in that Starbucks. And I'm trying to be a Christian man, but I about punched him right in the throat. I really like, dude, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Go back and wash your hands. And I'm just a little bit of a germaphobe, and airplanes and airports are disgusting. I'm like, well, that's what Jesus was talking about. That's what the law was given. Because 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, I mean, when you got sick, you had a pretty high chance of dying because there wasn't medicines and great doctors like we have now. So it was like God's like, hey, wash your hands so you don't get sick. Not because somehow it makes you unclean or unright with God. That's where this whole thing comes from. It's really important. But there is some stuff that will defile you and will defile me. Luke, who recorded Jesus' life also along with Matthew, Luke says Jesus made this amazing statement: no good tree bears bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. He'll explain this in a second. He goes on to say, each tree is recognized by its own fruit. People do not pick figs from thorn bushes or grapes from briars. In other words, an apple tree produces an apple. An orange tree produces oranges. That's the point. But Jesus, what is the point? Because this doesn't make sense. Here's the point. A good man brings good things out of the good stored, here's our word, in his heart. An evil man brings evil out of the evil stored up in his heart. My friends, you have one or two things, I have one or two things in our hearts, maybe both things. Either it's evil that was given to you, said to you, done to you as in a child or a teenager or adult. It's also the evil that you and I grabbed onto along the way, and we all know we have done that. The other thing is it's good. And for many of us, we'd say the only good thing in my heart is what God's given me. I would say that about me. There's nothing good in me outside of God, outside of Jesus. But those are the two deals. It's evil or it's good according to Jesus. And this is a big deal. Jesus said, "For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of." I want to read that again. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. This is the law of integrity. What's on the inside is what comes out on the outside. What's in your soul pops out of your mouth. It's congruent. It's like a banana. If I peel a banana, you know what I expect when I peel a banana? I expect to find a banana inside the peel. It's what's inside and it's outside of the same thing. And here's the caveat. You can fake it for a while or for seasons until certain situations come up, because Jesus is saying what comes out of you is an indicator of what's stored up inside of you. It comes out of your mouth, but it's what's in your soul. It's stored, and there's some of us, and I know I have this in certain ways. I've worked on it. I have toxic stuff in my soul that leaks out. And part of it's been as a pastor, because I've been told some really mean things along the way as a pastor. Do not feel sorry for me. I'm fine now. But if I don't watch that, it will pop out. It's what was given to me and what I've chosen along the way. And if you don't acknowledge that you've been given some stuff that's toxic, or you've grabbed on some things that are toxic, you'll miss the fact that you have the ability to be incredibly hurtful along the way. That in your life, the you in this diagram, and notice the you is pretty much shaded in kind of the dark side of the moon. There's also some really, bright stuff, but I want to talk about the dark side. You have the ability to be hurtful towards other people. And you don't want to be hurtful. You also have the ability to be critical. In fact, some of you know this, you've been told this. You have a PhD in being critical of people and things and government and TV and music. I mean, your deals, I just want to be critical and tell you how critical it is. And what comes out of your mouth often is just so critical. There's also the ability that some of you have the ability to be deceitful, which I think we all probably do. What comes out of our mouth is deceitful. And all these things, whether it's hurtful, critical, or deceitful, are how people, at least some of the time, experience you. And there's layers to this, because you're complicated, I'm complicated. Like, you can cover it up until a layer is peeled away. Something happens, and it just pops out. And when the layers are peeled away, or there's a situation of stress, or you're hungry or tired, or whatever it might be, you're hurtful, it's anger. Something inside you, and it's sadness. This is so interesting for me, and this has helped me along the way as I lead people. And I'll see something that's hurtful, and I just want to set them straight. And when I realize, man, they might have some anger and sadness from their own life. In fact, on Mother's Day, this might be a day of sadness for you. And I just want you to know we see that in you. But you still don't want to be hurtful when it comes out, when you're provoked. It might be the idea of loss with your anger, like you're experiencing Mother's Day because you're missing your mom, and what pops out is anger and sadness and hurtfulness. There's so many things we could talk about around loss on Mother's Day, but I don't want to go too deep down that road. But it presents as, hurtfulness, but really it's loss. And if you don't root that out and work with that and deal with that, you're just going to be hurtful. Maybe for you, it's stored up envy and jealousy. And we all have this, I want that, and I need that, and I deserve that, and I don't have what they have. And that whole thing comes down to this idea, I'm really just discontent. I'm critical. I'm really just discontent, which comes out as jealousy and envy and criticalness. But really what it is discontentment. The other thing that pops out with our deceitfulness is shame and guilt. See, when I feel shame and guilt, I want to cover it up and I want to deceive you. I don't want you to know about it. I want to get you to look the other way or think about something else, so I'm deceitful. But really what's driving all that is fear. I'm just afraid that if they find out, if she finds out, I'm going to be rejected, and shame just whispers in your ear, you're not worth anything, so I'm going to be deceitful. I've thought about this, and I've thought about saying this, so I'm going to say it. I just wonder, when it comes to people that do what I do, pastors, priests, church leaders, volunteer leaders, if the church would have a better reputation if we just moved out of our fear and shame and guilt, and instead of deceiving people, go, listen, here's where I'm tempted. Here's where I'm tempted to stumble. And I wanted somebody to know before I ever, and we've seen this way too much lately, hurt children, students, or adults when you have authority in the church. And if it's good for me, it's good for you and your family and your businesses and in your school systems. But when you're driven by fear and shame, I'm telling you, you will cover and you will cover and here you cover. And here's just an old man pro tip. It always comes out somehow. It comes out of the heart, out of the mouth, and people, I mean, they just see. Because, we said this already, what comes out of you is an indicator of what's stored up inside of you. And so what do we do? How do we monitor this whole thing? I would suggest that you start monitoring your words. Am I being, with the things I say, is it critical all the time? Or half the time? Or 10% of the time? And how much criticalness is unhealthy for you? Am I being deceitful? Like, I said something, that's not true. Or that's not totally true. And that's stored up inside of me. I can tell you why I said it. I can justify it, and partly it was so I didn't hurt somebody. It's Mother's Day. I don't want to hurt my mom or my wife on Mother's Day, but why am I lying? And why am I being hurtful? Is it anger? Is it loss? See, when you start to be curious of what's coming out of your mouth, and you ask why, and you ask the question, what am I storing up in my heart? And I don't just mean situational storing up. Once in a while, we all lose our cool. Once in a while, I'm just hungry enough, you're gonna catch a little bit of my frustration. That's just me. But am I actually trying to connect what I'm doing in the moment with my past and what's been done to me and the ugly things that I have grabbed onto, the deep things? And am I willing to root at it and dig at it and trying to pull it out? If you've ever done counseling, and I do counseling, suggest a Jesus-centered counselor if you do counseling. That's just my own opinion. But when my counselor says, hey, you ought to pay attention to that. Like I say something and the counselor goes, you ought to pay attention to that. You ought to pay attention to that. I should pay attention to that. Because what I don't want, and I don't want this when I'm 55, coasting into the next season of my life. I didn't want this at 20 when I was about ready to have kids and be a married man. I didn't want this mess. I didn't want hard issues with internal dissidence. I didn't want to be hurtful and angry and sad and have loss that drove all that. I didn't want to be critical because I was jealous and discontent with my life. I didn't want to be deceitful that was driven by fear. But we all have that in us because we are broken people. And when people see me lose my mind, they kind of know something's wrong. I wanted to pay attention before they did. And this is in all of us. Years ago, one more pastor story. Years and years ago, a long time ago, I was talking on stage for several weeks about sexuality. And I made some, fun jokes because I like to say goofy things on stage. And this person, after like the third message in the series, came up to me and laid waste to me. Now, you need to know, I don't let people do that in our church. But for some reason, I just let her do that. What she had to say, I just, okay. And I was real patient. I'm not going to let you do that today. So if you lay waste to me, I'm coming back at you, just to be fair. But I just let her say what she wanted to say because I knew something was just weird and off. Like, what's the big deal? And about a month later, I found out there had been some stuff going on in her marriage that, leave this slide up here, that was shameful and guiltful, and she was deceitful. And she let me have her frustration and anger when you know who she was really angry with was herself. So what's going on when you pay attention to this? Now, to get to the end of this today, because we're running out of time, I want to talk about this idea of cognitive restructuring. This is an idea that I'm not an expert on in any shape or form, but it's a psychological premise that was invented somewhere in the 1960s. That when you have a broken heart, internal dissonance, you have to do some kind of brain restructuring to see the world right. Now, if you're one of those people that think, oh, that's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, I'm just going to tell you right now, you're absolutely wrong. Because we thought we discovered this idea in 1960-ish, but 2,000 years before this was discovered in the modern age. The Apostle Paul wrote a letter to a bunch of Roman Christians. Look at what he says. He says, don't copy the behavior and the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you, say this with me, changing the way you think. Oh, well, I guess maybe we are finally stumbling on to some God-centered ideas along the way. And Paul is telling us how to be free of these things, how to live a life of wholeness where we love well. And he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to be transformed or have a transformation. That's all cognitive restructuring is. I want your mind to restructure itself because what's lodged in your heart has to be dealt with. And you're seeing, and I'm seeing those things in my heart, just like Jesus said, the yuck in there in my soul is okay, permissible. I'm lying and being deceitful. I want to restore that. I want you to renew your mind the way you see it all. That you can say, that thing in my soul that's coming out of my mouth and in my actions, I don't want that anymore. And I would suggest if you want some transformation, you got to start with being willing to hear yourself. And this is hard. Because when I say things and I feel pretty good about the way I say my words, I really don't want to hear the negative part. But if you and I would be willing to pay attention to what we say, I mean, come on, parents. You got little kids that are looking up to you, hoping you get this right. And you need to discipline them. But when you say things that are just unhealthy to them or shaming them, or driving them in a place that drives them away from God, you got to hear that because they're counting on us to be the healthiest parents that we can be. When it comes to your spouse, if you're always telling him what he needs to do to be better, it's just going to drive him to do the same dumb things he's doing. The same with her, compare, and all the stuff we do as husbands. Am I listening to the words that come out of my mouth? They're clues to what's inside of me. Here's a pro tip. Ask somebody you can trust what they hear you saying. It takes a lot of guts to ask your spouse, but I promise you, your wife will tell you what's coming out of your mouth that you need to know about. But if you can't ask your wife, ask somebody, what do you hear me saying? Ask somebody that, their heart, I would suggest, is engaged in healthy things. I would suggest a Jesus follower. I think of just around our church, and this is a little bit of a promo for our church, but it's true. We ask people in our church to do 4 things: to serve, to invite, to give, and be in a group. And when I say, hey, would you be willing to be in a group or serve? And people are like, no, I can't do that because I'm whatever the excuse is. I'm like, hey, have you heard your excuse? You love this church. Well, what's the deal? Well, I can't be generous. Well, why? And we don't listen to the words we say. That's applicable to everything of how we talk to people, how we lose our cool, how we're critical, just like the wheel says. Listen to your words. And then look in, and this matters because your feelings matter to God. Look inside. Pay attention to your emotions. What gets you really stirred up in that? That's some toxicity in your life. I mean, there's some healthy anger. There's some things that we should be angry about in our world and take action. Well, let's just be honest. For me, at least, I'll just speak for myself. A lot of the things that I get frustrated with are not healthy take action things. They're just frustrations and real ugly anger. What's inside you that's stirred up? And then be restored. And here's the beautiful thing. And I don't know if maybe you all know this, but I doubt everyone knows this. Restoration comes through Jesus. That's what we believe as Christians. If you don't believe that, I get it. I'm glad you're here. Keep coming. But we just believe this. When Jesus gets up in your heart and your mind, he changes the way you think. Like, here's a toxic thing. Anybody that hurts me, I'm going to hurt them back. But not only they get hurt, the people around you that you love get hurt, because that hurt just spreads. And Jesus comes along. Think about this. I want you to forgive. I want you to pray for your enemies. I want you to let go. Would your life and your relationships be better if you let go to some of that anger and hurt and loss in your life? My guess is they would, and that's what God wants for you. This is how he renews our mind. I want to investigate the life of Jesus, and then I want to emulate it, and I want it to be my mind and my soul and my mouth and my actions. The challenge is heart work, because this is what we're talking about. Heart work is just stinking hard work. And this is where I just say back to the men that have like, oh, this is so soft. Are you kidding? This is the hardest thing you will ever do in your life. You got to man up and woman up to do this, because it's painful to look inside. And we don't want to deal with the wounds we have and this stuff people handed us as kids and as adults. And we certainly don't want to look at the stuff we did, but you owe it to yourself. And you owe it to the people you love in your life to do this, because Solomon said, above all, think about this, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it, everything. Dads, and this is my gift to the moms. Dads, stepdads, men that step in as dads, can you imagine your childhood if your dad did this for you? How much healthier you would be if he guarded his heart. And some of you just like, oh my gosh, it would have changed everything. Let me tell you about my dad, and I'll tell you about my mom to wrap this up. My dad was raised in an alcoholic home with parents that were unfaithful to each other, did some not so great things, and no Jesus in it. And my dad discovered Jesus at 20 years old. And then he married my mom. The two greatest things that ever happened to my dad was Jesus and my mom. Because Jesus saved him, and then Jesus used my mom to teach him how to love and root that stuff out. And I watched my dad over the years change. And he would read and pray and investigate and try and figure out the yuck that he was given. And I can remember a distinct difference, and this is one simple way I remember a difference from my dad. When I was little, he was such a good dad, but he didn't smile very much. And my mom is all about smiles, hugs, laughs, and cries. That's my mama. And my mom taught my dad how to root out all that. Oh, I'm just going to cover up and deceive and be the man he was created to be. To the point, I would tell you, he's one of my greatest influences in my life. But he had to dig and go rooting out the garbage in his soul. My mom had parents that loved so well, Nani and Poppy. Remember them today. And they taught her to love, and she still had stuff she had to root out and deal with. But as they did, they found health in a family that the greatest attribute to my mom and my dad, and we'll give my mom all the credit on Mother's Day, so Mama, this is you, for you, that her adult kids just want to be with her. Because she's decided, I'm not going to be hurtful and deceitful and envious and angry along the way. It's not going to be my life. Can you imagine if we all just started doing this? And if you're 15, it's a great time to start doing this. There's some adults in the room that wish they could go back to 15 and do this very thing. If you're 55, if you're 85, it is not too late to change what's in your heart and let God renew your mind with some cognitive restructuring around Jesus Christ, who loves you so much, he gave his life on a cross for you. Can you imagine what your family would look like and my family would look like if we decided what's in here is flowing out, and I'm gonna monitor what is in here? Today is just the first step. We're gonna talk about this over the next couple weeks. Pay attention to your words. Pay attention to your feelings. Let God restore the way you think. And if you don't know how to think any other way, pay attention to Jesus in the Gospels, especially in Matthew 5, 6, and 7. If you're just looking for something to read, he paints a beautiful picture of what it looks like to look at beautiful things. Let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, this is so easy for me to talk about. It is so hard for me to do. But Lord, we know what you want for us. And I think in some way we know what we want for ourselves. And it's not to be hurtful or deceitful or angry or critical. In the end, Jesus, we want love and full relationships and forgiveness in you, Jesus. So help us to renew our mind. Help us to think about what is good, right, and lovely according to you and only you. And thanks for your patience when we don't get this right. Thanks for every mother that's in the room and online that's praying for somebody that they love, hoping they get this. We love you, Jesus, so much, and we're grateful. In your precious name I pray. Amen. Happy Mother's Day, guys. Have a great rest of your day. You're dismissed.